Hello everyone! In this video I will be going through some Klak patches, trying to show you how some of these nodes work and what you can do with them. So let's get to it. The first thing I want to go through is changing animator parameter values with node input. So here we go. We have a UFO sprite and I've got a simple animation setup of the UFO going left to right. Now I'll be using the speed multiplier parameter. So we go into the animator and you need a parameter. You click the little plus here, choose a float, call it whatever you want, and there we have it. I already have one called speed multiplier set up here with value 1. So we get regular speed on startup. Then next thing you have to do is select your animation, check the multiplier checkbox here, and then you can choose the parameter you want. So I've got my speed multiplier here. Now let's have a look at a patch. And by the way, if you don't know where to find the animator window, you click window, animation, and there it is, animation and the animator. So the patcher, we've got a simple node input node here and an animator out node. First thing we have to do is choose which animator we want. So I'm going to be using the UFO, so drag that in there. We got it here, UFO animator. Alternatively, you can click this little button here and then you can select the one you want. And then you type in the parameter name of the parameter you want to use. So I've got speed multiplier set up here. Then on the node input node, we'll be using the value and put it into float parameter. And what I've got set up here is off value is 1 and the on value is 2. So that means when the node input is not active, or the button is not pressed, the value will be 1. So that means speed multiplied by 1 regular speed. And if the node input is on, we get 2, so double speed. And we've got the interpolator set to direct, so these values change directly from 1 to 2 and from 2 to 1. So what do we get on play? Our animation will start looping because its loop is enabled, and there we have it. Our animation is going, and I'll be using the debug checkbox here. If this checkbox is activated, that means it corresponds to a button press. If I uncheck it, node off, so node on, we see double speed, and node off, we get regular speed again. Simple enough. But you might also want perhaps a second node input. So let's duplicate this one here and maybe another button, and if the other button is pressed, we might want a half speed. So then you think you can make a patch like this, change the on value to 0.5, and this should do it. But unfortunately not. This does not work because the first node input node is already constantly sending its value. If the node is pressed or the node on is activated, 2 is constantly being sent. If it's not activated, 1 is constantly being sent. So there is no room for this node's value to get through to this animator out patch. So you cannot do it like this, but what you can do is set up a patch like this. And what we have here is one node input. Instead of using the value, we're going to use the node on and node off triggers. If the button is activated, the node is activated, it goes into a random value input, which I've got set up minimum 2, maximum 2. So if the node on activated, bang, the random value will generate value 2 and send it to the float parameter. For node off, we've got here value 1 get generated and sent, and for the second node input node, we've got the random value set to 1.5 on node on, and on node off 1 again. So these values only get sent once on the node on and node off triggers, so there is room for the other value to get through. So let's see this in action. And this takes some time because this laptop is incredibly old, but there we go. Let's first delete this, otherwise the values won't get through. And here we go. I activate this node input and we get double value. Now I activate this one and we get half value. And node off, back to regular value. Node off, on, half. So there we go. Here again, node on, double speed. Node off, regular speed. So that's that. The next thing I want to go through is using float animations to drive animations with normalized time. So the first thing I'm gonna do is disable looping for this animation, and let's have a look at this patch over here. Got lots of nodes set up here, but you can ignore these for now. We'll be starting using simply the node input node and the animator out again. So let's select the UFO again, and there we go. First thing we're gonna do is simply put the node on into normalized time, and we can see here node on event, animator out normalized time. The node input is sending the value 1 on node on to normalized time, and what this means is it tells the animator go to normalized time 1 and complete a whole animation cycle, and a whole animation cycle is from 1 to 2 in normalized time, and then from 2 a new animation cycle starts, from 2 to 3, from 3 to 4 are all full animation cycles, just as from 0 to 1 is also one cycle. So let's have a look at this on play, and we see this UFO animation plays one time just as well as this flashing thing on play, which is something we might not want, and I'll get into disabling this in a second. But first let's check out the node on to normalized time. If I press this here, the node on is activated, you see the animation plays one time. If I were to put in 0, we get the same result, we get a whole animation playing. But if I put in 0.5, it's gonna tell the animation start in time 0.5 and complete a whole cycle, and 0.5 is obviously half. So there we have it, the animation starts halfway through and completes its cycle. If I put in 0.75, you can guess what's gonna happen. There we go, 0.999, there we go, and it starts at the end and basically stays at the end. So there we have it. But you can do more interesting things perhaps with setting up float animations into normalized time. And the first float animation I'll be using will be this one, float animation start. And I will be using this one to get rid of the initial animation on startup. So let's get out of play mode, and what I have here is a float animation. So float animation basically sends float values over time, and this, so the x-axis is time, y-axis is your value. This float animation just sends the value 0, and it keeps sending the value 0 indefinitely as long as the animation is playing, this float animation. So if I put this float value into normalized time and I've got play on start enabled, I will send the value 0 on start into normalized time constantly, so it will keep telling the animator to start in position 0, but it will constantly be sending 0, so nothing will happen. As we can see now, the UFO is standing still because of this value 0. But now if I activate this node input, nothing happens because this guy over here keeps sending 0, 0, 0, so this is not having any effect. So what do we have to do? Also put the node on into the stop of the animation here. So if I now press the button, 0 stops getting sent, and now this 1 is getting through again, so we can actually play the animation. Now I've got different float animation setup here, so let's get rid of this one, and I will be using a toggle. So let's get this node on in the trigger, and I've got 3 different float animations. So I've set the state count to 3 and play, nope, this is wrong. State 2 is another play, and state 3 is another play. Also, we need to stop playing the previous float animation in each state. So in state 2, we need to stop float animation 1. In state 3, we have to stop float animation 3. And in state 1, we have to stop playing float animation 3. Now, before we use these float animations, first let's also hook them up here, and then let's have a look at these curves. The first one here is a looping curve, which goes from 0 to 1 and from 1 back to 0, and it keeps looping this as long as the animation is playing. So as you can guess, this animation will basically make the UFO go from left to right and back from right to left and keep going all the time. So the next one is a curve like this. So instead of going linear from 0 to 1, we're actually going like this. So the value is going up pretty fast in the beginning, and it's kind of slowing down near the end. So we will get a UFO which starts fast and is going to slow down near the end, because here the value is almost 1 already, so it's almost near the end already here, and then over this time it will go slower, 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 slower to the end. And one thing to note is this animation is ending in value 1. So you would expect it just going to end right at the end, but actually it doesn't. It goes right back to the beginning. This you will see later what I mean. So the next float animation is this one, and this one the value is going up very slowly in the beginning, and near the end it's going up pretty fast. So this animation will actually speed up over time. And here I've got the value at the end is set up at 0.99 instead of 1. So you will see the difference between both animations. Let's put them back in normalized time. Sorry about that, and let's go now. So this is the first one, looping left to right and back. There we go. And if we press the button again, get the second. That was slow down, and as you can see, instead of staying here, it went right back to the beginning. So if you don't want an animation to end basically right back at the beginning, you have to set the final value not at a whole integer, but just near the end, like this one. I put 0.99, this one, and that will be the next animation playing, and you will see this one speed up and then it ends right at the end instead of going back to the beginning like the previous one. So here we go, looping again. Here slow down again and go back to 1, and there we go, next one, speeding up and staying in 0.99. So you can see different animation curves can give you different results using the same animation clip. So you can make these curves whatever shape you want. You can make it flat here and then it will pause for a while before going back down, or whatever. You can shape your animations however you want using float animations. So the next thing I want to do is use this flashing animation thing. So I've got this here. Let's play this animation. So this is this flashy sparky thing, and as we can see on play, this is also gonna play once. There we have it. And we also don't want this, but let's have a look at the actual animation. As we can see, the beginning is a transparent sprite, then it starts building up and disappearing, and the last one is also a transparent sprite. So if we don't want this animation to play at the beginning, we could do the same thing with the UFO, just send a float animation that is constantly sending value 0, so it stays in the beginning state the whole time. But we can also simply send the value 0.99 into this guy's animator, so it will start with a transparent sprite and basically stay there, and that way we don't have to stop a float animation on start to make it work, just like we had to do here. We had to hook this guy up into stop, but here I've got the flashes animator. I've got a random value 0.99, gonna make that send on startup and hook this one up in the normalized time of the flashes thing. And what do we have? We play it and it doesn't move, just like we want. Now, what else have I got set up here? I've got a float animation, a different one for this guy. Also a looping curve. Instead of going from 1 to 0, just go to 0 to 1 and back to 0, 0 to 1, 0 to 1. And what I'm gonna do with this one is we put node on play. So, and get this float into normalized time. And so if we activate the node input, this guy starts looping and it stays looping indefinitely because we have no stop setup. But if we put the node off into the stop, then we get this animation looping for as long as the node is active. Something like this might be useful if, for instance, I put here channel 6, so that would be the lead channel on the OPZ. So with a setup like this, if a long node is being played, which means the node is active for long, the animation loops until the node is off and then the animation stops. Whereas with a non-looping animation, you would get just one simple animation cycle for every node that plays, regardless if the node is long or short. And this way you will get actually longer looping animations for long nodes, so the visuals will kind of interact more with the music instead of doing the same thing for every kind of note. So this is how you can do different things with float animations to make the same animation clip behave differently using normalized time. So alright, that's it for now. I got a few other things planned, but as this video is already getting pretty long, I'm gonna keep those for the next video. So thanks for watching and stay tuned.